morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start by thanking Paul and Danny and Ibec team for the excellent arrangements for the conference, and to thank our colleagues from Europe for being here. Smurfit Kappa is a packaging company. If you make it, we'll package it. If we don't package it, we'd like to package it. And this slide shows some of the examples of the packaging we do. But to the subject in question, I want to talk about Europe's fitness for purpose for the future. As many speakers have already said, Europe is the largest economy in the world, twice the size of China's GDP, larger than the US GDP. Very big manufacturing countries like Germany and France on the one hand, and fast-growing countries like Poland, Czech Republic, etc., giving large markets of diverse nature, lots of different products and ideas and natural resources. And also Europe has a very strong reputation education-wise, delivering a lot of graduates into business, academia and research worldwide. Its reputation in business is world-class. German engineering, Swedish R&D, French innovation, Irish food, and big brands from countries like Ireland, such as Jameson, we heard this morning, Guinness, Baileys, Kerrygold, U2, Riverdance. So an admirable track record, if you like, in terms of business. So as they say in the movie, so what's up, Doc? How is Europe today? Obviously, it's coming out of recession. The LTRO program has certainly removed the doomsday fears. It's experiencing positive cash inflows and capital inflows, and even the funding costs for the banking sector is reducing, as Thomas has said. However, the outlook is for no or slow growth in Europe, with major disparities in the region. We see the strength continuing in the centre and the north, and the periphery in some difficulties, which obviously creates dangers and challenges for the European model. And the main issues are demand collapse in many economies, excessive costs, manufacturing in decline, which is the backbone of any economy, and the danger of systemic unemployment if we don't do something about it. My own industry, the paper-based packaging industry, has strong credentials to talk about Europe. Everything it does is made in Europe. The European industry makes its own products, sources its own raw materials. The equipment manufacturers are predominantly European, huge direct and indirect employment in Europe, and it's a renewable and recyclable industry in a world of sustainability, and exports a lot to deliver for the economy of Europe. In Smurfit Kappa Group terms, we're the largest packaging company in Europe, the second largest in the world. As Olivia said, we're operating in 32 countries on 3 continents with 350 factories, over 40,000 employees now. Olivia, we acquired a company that I didn't tell you about at the end of last year, and we turn over now about 8 billion euro. We've had a roller coaster ride since 2007. We IPO'd in 2007 with a share price of €16.50. We reached 20 euros in late 07. We reached €1 in 08. We reached 4 euros in 010. And we closed last night at €11.75. By any account, that's a roller coaster ride. And the main method in which we survived that experience is a proxy in many ways for the success of many businesses in Europe. Very quick history. It's an unlikely Irish champion. There's no natural resources to support a paper packaging business from Ireland. It grew by acquisition, led by a pioneering entrepreneur called Michael Smurfit. And in the last 30 years, the turnover grew from €500 million to €8 billion. We have a clear value-added proposition. We're not a commodity, and we're focused on finance, profits, and most importantly, shareholder value. As we package most of what's produced in Europe, in many ways, we're a window on the European manufacturing world. We have the largest European footprint, operating in 21 countries, the top 5 being Germany, France, Benelux, Italy, and the UK, and we have a one-stop shop for paper-based packaging. Our business mix is interesting. We have 60,000 customers, 35% are multinational, 17% are national, and 48% are small local SMEs. 60% of our business is FMCG, and our main focus, as I said, is delivering value rather than commodity. This slide gives you a sense of the quality names and brands whom we service worldwide. I'm glad to see that my guys included Pernod Ricard. It could have been embarrassing with Pierre this morning. But these companies are the most demanding companies in the world in terms of standards, products, innovation, etc. And to service them, we equally need to be of world-class standard. We serve the biggest of them in 20 countries from over 100 factories in our operations. The only way we've survived in the last 5 years is through innovation, increasing efficiency, and driving our cost base in a business where the price level and the pricing is deflating. In terms of operating efficiency, in the 5 years we've closed 30 factories, taken out 5,000 employees, and 500 million out of our cost base. But we didn't just focus on regression. In the same period, we invested €2 billion in projects and acquisitions, with 2/3 of that in Europe. This investment is an act of faith in Europe and a belief in Europe. And obviously, if the next 5 years deliver as we hope, that number will obviously equally be replicated. But despite all of that activity in terms of cost takeout and investments, our margins, as you can see on the graph, have barely moved. So we classically have run hard to stand still. Our success has been basically involved in holding our costs down in a margin declining world. And two of the most critical costs are labour and energy, which you've heard a lot about this morning. And in our case, our average labour costs are down by 1% in unit terms over the few years, despite labour inflation across Europe, whereas the average manufacturing labour costs in Europe are up 1 to 2%. Our energy costs have reduced from 7.5% of our turnover in 2008 to 6.5% in 2012, mainly through investments. And however, despite 250 million of cost takeout on the labour side alone, our payroll is exactly the same today as it was 5 years ago. So running fast to stand still. From our perspective, I believe we're a proxy for many industries, and so I think we have a reasonable view on what we think is needed in Europe. To underpin my comments, there are two general threats as I see it. The general threat from lack of European competitiveness and the specific threat from increasing European regulation. From a competitiveness point of view, we need greater activity, lower costs, higher R&D, and a constant vigilance to avoid an excessively strong currency. And in the area of regulation, we need it to be enabling and not disabling, cost neutral at worst. Ideally, we need sectoral fitness checks applied to all existing and future planned legislation, and preferably a freeze on all new regulation. But above all, in this era, we need more entrepreneurship rather than regulation. Just touching on a few issues from the subject matter of competitiveness. In the issue of labour, unemployment is clearly the greatest threat to Europe. It's the highest in 20 years, moving from 7.7% in 07, or in 08 should I say, to a targeted 11.9% in 2013. There's a danger we'll have lost a full generation in Europe if this continues. The labour cost needs to reduce further. The graph shows slower growth in Europe, but from a high absolute cost level. And this doesn't measure comparative productivity. As an aside, you can see that Ireland is going in the right direction, but again, from a high cost base. We need more flexibility in labour in Europe. Europe has poor mobility of workers, poor flexibility, and it forms a barriers to companies upsizing in a recovery. We don't want a jobless growth phenomenon. Another key issue, which really isn't on the radar screen properly at this moment in time, is demographics. There's an increasing threat. By 2050, the median age in Europe will have moved to 52 years of age from 38 years of age today. The US equivalent will be 35 years of age by 2050. So who will do the work? Who will pay the bills? And who will pay for the probably unsustainable health and pensions bill that we've racked up over the years? Some other European barriers to progress. We need to revisit the drivers of European competitiveness. Fundamentally, and we've heard talk about it this morning, we need a pro-business climate in Europe where we create wealth first and then distribute it, not the other way around. We need to get a greater hearing in Brussels and not be a poor third to the NGOs and to organised labour. And as well as cost competitiveness, we need a competitively priced euro. In terms of regulation, we need certainty. Focus has to be on enterprise first and gatekeeping second. Regulation has to have regard to the global marketplace and competitors and not just a local country or European focus. And there is no future, in my mind, in Europe in focusing on levelling an increasingly poor playing field. Europe as an attractive place for enterprise has to be promoted. There is a growing threat from governments focusing on more income taxes rather than less expenditure. Austerity programmes have had their place, but they're probably overdone, and stimulus is certainly needed in most parts of Europe right now. And as we've heard on a number of occasions this morning, We need a coordinated energy approach in Europe. As has been done in some areas in a very successful way, we need to harmonise the markets. How in a region without any significant natural energy resources can we continue to have a fragmented market? We close nuclear sources, low-cost sources. We demand excessively costly, environmentally friendly energy solutions. We refuse to at least research shale gas, and we increase taxes on energy. Not a recipe for success, I would have suggested. This chart, using German gas prices and US gas prices as proxies for energy costs, shows that between 2008 and 2012, German costs came down by about 3%, but with an upward trend, and US costs came down by 70% with a downward trend. The consequences are obvious. Some final points on Europe. Europe, in my mind, and in many people's mind, is a fantastic concept. We have made great strides. However, we need to finish the job. Politicians need to complete the exercise, not reverse it, and we certainly need to avoid a la carte requests on the European agenda. Many sectors have seen the power of the internal market. We need to push and finish it in areas such as energy and services and the digital world. Trade talks, the EU-US talks that we've been talking about and Miles touched on, are very welcome, even obviously if we've delayed them until the US is now very competitive again. And as an observation on human behaviour, we can't continue to blame Europe or Brussels for everything that's wrong and be surprised when referenda or polls have a negative sentiment towards Europe. We need to reverse this psychology and promote the positives. And I think we need less everywhere. We need less or less costly government at all levels. De-layering is vital, as it was in business and is in business. And if the option is taxes or less costs, you know the answer. One thing I think that underpins everything is fear. Without consumerism, we have no need for business. Consumerism is absolutely obstructed by the fear factor. I think there are three categories in Europe: those who are unemployed, those who fear about being unemployed, and those who fear that they have to pay for the unemployed. The consequence of it, of course, is that we have a stasis in terms of expenditure. And until we unlock that through reducing the unemployment and increasing the opportunity for people to get back employed, I think we are going to run into difficulties. The reality for people is they are committed, in my view, to do anything to get back to work and get back to competitiveness, but not without hope and without a vision. I worked in a state company many years ago, and a trade unionist taught me one thing, and that was, she said to me, the leadership approach that continues to believe in the maxim that the beatings will continue until morale improves is a failed policy. I think for austerity, we have the same issue. So let me summarize. Some people believe we have a problem in Europe. I actually think it's worse. I think we have a silent crisis creeping up on us unless we act now. And I hope I've shown you some of the parts of the DNA of that crisis. We have declining consumerism driven by unemployment, which is in danger of being systemic, and we have a mid-term demographic deterioration. We have a decline in manufacturing. Fixed investment as a percentage of GDP in 2008 was 21.5%. In 2012 was 18.5%. Industrial production is down 2.5% in 2012. We have reverse FDI. Businesses that are European originating, European based, are now expanding and spending most of their expansion dollars outside of Europe. And competitiveness, which is core to everything, is a challenge on many fronts: labour, energy, cost of governments and regulations, and sustainability initiatives that are not sustainable, quite frankly, economically. If we don't act more decisively, Europe will be another Japan in the making, with no population growth, no GDP growth, no job growth, and while the Japanese are passive people, I suspect the European will be less passive. We all understand the problems. We have talked about them, we've analysed them. It's time for action. The action, in my view, is not more regulation. Enough is enough. I want to apologise if I sound negative, but I do believe, as they say in the movies, Houston, we have a problem. I think the question is that was posed on this part of the conference was, European competitiveness in a globalised economy, are we doing enough? I think you won't be surprised to hear that I believe we're not. But we have time, we have a fantastic opportunity, a great base, and if we act now, we can resolve these problems. So As somebody said in the Second World War, let's not march determinedly backward into the future. Thank you very much.